What would you do if your pastor or priest says he no longer believes in God? I'm talking about the person who you have seen preach several great sermons and led sinners to Christ. What do you do when one day you come to church and he's nowhere to be found, and you witness little groupings all whispering? They are all gossiping about the pastor who has said God doesn't exist. Before I come back to this true life story, let me give you the latest news from America. Last week, United Methodist Church, one of the largest mainline Protestant Christian denominations in the United States, with more than 5.4 million members in the US across nearly 30,000 active churches, in a historic move, passed a series of measures to remove anti-LGBTQ policies from its book of discipline, which sets out the denomination's bylaws and regulations. The church's governing body marked a new era of LGBTQ inclusion by voting to lift the bans on LGBTQ clergy and on pastors performing same-sex unions. They also removed the language that said homosexuality was incompatible with Christian teaching. Many members of the LGBTQ community and their families and friends cried and celebrated as news of the decision filtered out. This church has deep roots in Savannah, Georgia, where the founder of the Methodist movement, John Wesley, served as a minister when the city was the capital of the British colony. Some of you will also recall that on the 18th of December 2023, the Vatican, in a landmark ruling approved by Pope Francis, decreed that Roman Catholic priests can administer blessings to same-sex couples as long as they are not part of regular church rituals or liturgies. Is this not a case of Wahala has come to town? How else can you describe what is happening before our very eyes? The church has long been criticized for manipulating scripture and doctrines to suit its own purposes and agenda, and we're living through one of those moments in history right now. At some point in history, the church did something similar in saying polygamy was a sin, but because of resistance, they were unable to smuggle sufficient language into the Bible to legitimize their aims. This same church now says to us today that homosexuality is okay and is compatible with Christian doctrine. I don't know if you guys can understand how major this is. Earlier, I was telling the true life story of a pastor who now says he's a pagan. He used to be an assistant pastor with one of the redeemed parishes and was a regular at camp. But as he sat across from me last week, he casually said with all seriousness that God does not exist. As I listened to him, I asked myself, where and how do you begin to tell someone who has probably read the Bible back to back, preached many sermons from that same Bible, and led many to the saving knowledge of Christ, that he doesn't know what he's saying? I imagined all the night vigils he had led in church, all the 40-day fasts he must have done, and here he was saying God does not exist. There are many more like him out there. Many people are living the Christian faith and questioning church doctrines and practices. Churches are empty as this generation of youths refuse to toe the blind faith of their fathers. They want to know why they are being taxed to build multi-million-dollar auditoriums, whereas most of them are jobless and barely eat 2 meals a day. They want to understand why they should pay tithes and how their offering money is being spent. They want to know the mystery behind the man of God whose only job is preaching an average of 3 messages a week. And yet, he is richer than his whole congregation combined. They try to find a nexus between what they see and what they have read in the Bible. They can find none. So they come to the conclusion that church is a scam. Who will bail the cats? Our chickens have finally come home to roost. Our children are saying, you can't tell me to go to church when there's nothing Christ-like about you. The world is saying, The Christian stickers you have on your cars and doors are no longer enough. Their earnest expectation is the manifestation of the sons of God. They are saying your light is dead, so they can't see your good works and therefore can't glorify God or turn to God because of you. We have played church for too long, and now the world demands the evidence of our faith in an evil and crumbling world, and we have come up short. Where are the sons of God as the gospel of Christ is being perverted? Where are we when men who once preached the gospel now say our God is not real? Do you know what I told the former pastor now turned pagan? I said to him, I have experienced God, so I know God is real. The problem of the church today is that many have never experienced God. They call his name, but they don't know him. They follow those who follow him, but they don't see him. They hear from others, but they can't hear from he who they don't know. This is a wake-up call for us all who are called by his name. It will be a tragedy to have lived all your life in church, but you never encountered God. You must experience God for yourself, outside the teaching and preaching of others. Don't continue blaming God for not answering your prayers when he's not the one you have been actually praying to. Imagine all those who were under the tutelage of the pastor now turned pagan. The fact that people say God doesn't mean that they know God. Experience God for yourself. Tell God to reveal himself to you. It is your right as a son of God. Every son has a right to know his father. This is the only way you can be strong and do exploits. You can never do exploits if you don't know who you are and whose you are. God healed me so I can testify that he is real and that he's a healer. He abides with me through thick and thin so I can testify that he is a friend. He sees me for who I am and not for what I am. And this is why I know he is my God. Only the God who created you can recognize you even when you are clothed with mud and filth. The God who sees us for who we are in spite of our missteps and misdeeds, despite our confusion and apathy, irrespective of all the wrong turns we have taken, even when we say he's not real, is the God we must experience. Start experiencing God today. God bless you all.